In this video we're going to find the equations of lines. In the previous ones we already had the equation and we got the graph from the equation, but with this one we're going the opposite way round, so the process is quite different. To find the equation of a line we need things like the slope of the line, and to find the slope we need two points on the line. So our 2 points here is one here and one here, the y-intercept and the x-intercept. So this y-intercept is 0, 6 and the x-intercept is 3, 0, because remember across 3 and we didn't go up or down. This is y-intercept, and that's going to be useful because remember, that is a part of our equation. Alright, our equation y equals mx plus c. This part here is the slope, and this part here is the y-intercept. Okay, so we've already got part of our equation. We've got y equals mx plus 6 already. So let's go and work out the slope. So we know that the slope of a line is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now we need to nominate one of these points as our number 1 point and one as our number 2 point. So it's really arbitrary in this case, but I'll choose x2 y2 as for those ones and x1 y1 for those. So this becomes 0 take away 6 over 3 take away 0. So that's minus 6 over 3, which is minus 2. So we've basically got our equation now, because the slope, m is the letter that means slope, so that's minus 2x plus 6. In the second question, we don't actually have our line in the form of a graph, but we'd have 2 points, and if we were to put those on a set of axes, we would be able to draw a line. But we've got enough information. We've got 2 points, so we can find the slope. And to nominate were our slope equations y2 minus y1 on x2 minus x1. And to nominate which is which, I'll suggest very strongly that becomes x2 y2 and this becomes x1 y1. And the reason is I tend to want to associate x2 y2 with the larger numbers, so that when you subtract they remain usually positive, but it doesn't really matter. So we get 2 subtract negative 10 over 4 subtract negative 2. So that's 12 on 6. Right, remember subtracting a negative, double negative, replace that with a positive with an addition sign. So 2 plus 10 is 12, 4 plus 2 is 6, so the slope is 2. So far we know our equation is y equals 2x plus c, the y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, we just take one of the points and substitute it in, because after all, when we get an equation, what we really want is that if we substitute an x value in, we get a y value. So if we substitute in 4, we'll get 2. Or if we substitute in negative 2, we'll get negative 10 out for y. So let's substitute this in. So we know that if we substitute in 4, we've got to get the answer 2 for the equation to be the right one. So in other words, 2 is equal to 4 times 2 is 8 plus c. So to work out c, we need to subtract 8 from both sides. So 2 subtract 8 is negative 6 is equal to c. So now we know the equation is y equals 2x take away 6. And we can check whether we're right. So with our first point, if we put in 4, 2 times 4 is 8, take away 6 leaves 2, that's good. If we substitute in negative 2, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, take away 6 is negative 10. So I'm confident that that's the right answer. In the last question here, we've been given a scenario rather than a graph or 2 points. But we do have information here to generate 2 points, but we need to think about it first. We know that a 4-kilometre trip is $5.70 and a 12-kilometre trip is $10.10. So if we were drawing a graph here, what value would we put on what axis? And I'd suggest that the number of kilometres, or the distance, it would go on the x-axis, because that's the independent variable. That we want to find out what the cost is based on the number of kilometres, or the distance travelled. So this would be the charges up here, and that would be measured in dollars. So basically, to make points up out of this, the first one here would have to be 4, 5.7, and the second one would be 12, 10.1. And I'm just purely taking those money amounts and making them just back in as an ordinary decimal. So there are our 2 points. And that's been summarised already on the next slide. So now we've got our 2 points, we can find the slope. Remember, I said a rule of thumb, good rule of thumb, is to make your second point, your x2, y2, the bigger numbers, and your x1, y1, the smaller numbers. So the slope is y2 minus y1, so that's rise over x2 minus x1, which is run, that's along the x-axis. So this will become 10.1 subtract 5.7 over 12 take away 4. So sorting this out, we'll get 4.4 over 8, and that turns out to be 0.55. So far we know that the equation for the charge is 0.55 times the x-coordinate, which was distance, plus, and this is c for the y-intercept. So we're going to choose one of these points to substitute in to work out what the y-intercept is, because after all, this equation, if you put 4 into this equation, you should get 5.7 for c. Now, relying on that, we're going to use that to work out what the y-intercept is. So 5.7 is 0.55 times by 2. Oops, where did 2 come from? Let's try 4 plus c. So 5.7 is equal to 1.1. That doesn't sound correct. 0.55 times by 4 is 2.2 plus c. So to get c on its own, we need to do the opposite of adding 2.2, which is subtract 2.2 from both sides. So subtracting 2.2, so that's going to be something 0.5, 3.5. So that makes our equation now. The charge is 0.55 d plus 3.5. Now if we go back a slide, it asks at the bottom, what is the meaning of the numbers in the equation? So what is the meaning of 0.55 and what is the meaning of 3.5? Well, 3.5 is our y-intercept. So that's what taxis often call the flag fall. That's how much you'll need to pay just to get in the taxi or for it to come to your house or whatever. And the 0.55 in front of the d, timesing by the distance, that must mean 55 cents per kilometre. So that's the meaning that we can attach to those questions.